expression, doing it for the gram, doing it for the likes, and a whole lot more. But the question has been asked, and you see, I think this was done way better in this piece of information I'm about to share with you. More succinctly done, poignantly said than I could ever attempt. Now let's take a listen. For those of you on our Facebook stream, you can actually see it.
The impact of social media is undeniably harmful to our children.
Yeah, you said it's putting our ability to connect and influence children's lives in grave jeopardy.
So this world of virtual reality and social media has divested us of what it means to be human. It is antisocial, disconnected, fake, superficial, artificial, materialistic, comparative, competitive, separatist. In every way, it is eroding what it means to be a human soul. It is teaching our children to be entitled, indulgent, instantly gratified, all the things that we should be walking away from. We should be slowing our pace. We should be stilling our spirit. We should be soaking in nature. We should be connecting on a human personal level. We should not be in goal orientation the way we are. Oh, flick of a button and my food shows up. We should be in process. We're missing the process of our creativity, of our joy, of our hardship. What happened to pain? We're trying to do away with pain in our thirst for happiness. And what we're doing is we're creating greater fragility because we don't have the resilience to tolerate pain because we're wiping away pain.
Yeah, nobody wants anybody to have a moment of uncomfortability.
And that is why our children are crumbling. Our children feel the pressure of this artificial world like no one else.
Right, so this is it cuts straight to the heart of the matter. Dr. Shafali Sabari, she's a clinical psychologist, and she made those remarks speaking to the Queen of Talk, Oprah herself. Now, we're joined on the line by a man who understands the world of sociology, about people and how we've evolved. Dr. Mark Kwekuman-Somping is a senior lecturer at the Department of Sociology at the University of Ghana. Dr. Obing, good morning to you and thank you for your time.
Good morning, Kweku. And I trust you are doing well.
God is gracious. We're still here. Hopefully, we'll make it through the day. But more to the matter at hand. I remember when I first signed up to Facebook. Currently, I am on Facebook, Twitter, which is now X, so Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Snapchat. But there's a whole lot more. And I can't even keep up on these pages. But before it became what it has become, I thought that social media was a great way of connecting with different people around the world, learning about cultures and things like that. How did it evolve into this thing that is no longer a tool, but rather desensitizing, dehumanizing young people?
So good for the list that you just listed, and I can assure you, you are not in this alone. Virtual, that's the norm. Everybody is on multiple social media platforms. And I don't think the core issues of having an opportunity to connect with other cultures and other people has really been lost in its entirety. What I think is happening is that our quest, the human needs, as the economists will say, is insatiable, right? Once you satisfy one, in the process, another one emerges. And so there's always that innate desire to have more. And I guess that is where we get overwhelmed. That is where we get swamped. And so there's always something new the human body or the human mind is seeking to understand or to assess. And that is where we require a bit more decisions, a bit more discipline. And unfortunately, I think that is where we are missing out in this whole process and the usage of the social media platform.
The points that Dr. Shafali mentioned in that clip we just played, pointed to doing away with pain, doing away with process. And a lot of people seem to say, okay, well, you can monetize your content. So today, every third young person is a content creator. How much of this do you think may impact negatively on the psychology and the evolution of our youth into well-rounded adults who would make a great contribution to our nation's development?
Okay, so the data available actually suggests that less than 1 in possibly 20 or 50, in fact, less than 1 in 50 are monetizing their page. And so I think that the issue really is not about monetization of the pages, because there are very few people. And again, you know what it takes to get your page monetized. But again, it comes back to the point that what social media is doing to all of us is the fact that, and I mean, Dr. Shafali couldn't have put it any better, right? We are losing what makes us human beings. And so get to any social gathering. And again, social gatherings were meant for interaction. And you and I, you go to places. You go for a friend's birthday party, even at church, right? And instead of listening to sermon, instead of having a face-to-face interaction, even though the person is sitting next to you, all of us tend to be glued to our phone. And so the skills that we needed to acquire, the ability to interact with people, the ability to share, right, in the pain and in the sorrows, and everything that makes us human beings is what we are sacrificing for the sight. And our eyes are always eager to see. Our ears are always eager to hear. And for me, these are the issues. I mean, the point I always make is that we have to start as parents, as adults, to learn to say no. And I think our inability to say no and that discipline is what is getting us overwhelmed. The truth of the matter, and I can assure you, we cannot run away from social media. It has come to stay. The earlier we learn and accept that social media has become a part of our life and content creation, okay, it is also a very solid means of acquiring skills and then begin as a people to develop and adjust our system so that the positives of social media is not crumbling under the negatives. I agree the negatives appear at the moment, especially on children, even on productivity. And if you have observed, there are some companies who have now developed a zero tolerance for social media between their working space. And so if you are caught using social media or active on any social media platform during work hours, you are sanctioned. And there have been records where people have been dismissed, right? And that in itself tells us that the negative impact of social media is not just only on children, but it's also on adults as well. And so for me, and as a researcher, that is my position. My position is that we need to understand that social media has come to stay. What we need to then do is ask ourselves, how can we maximize the positives of social media for social development, for human development, and what have you?
Great points raised. I mean, we only have about 15 more minutes before we end the show, and there are a number of things that I would like for us to get through. Virtual reality, social media is not the true reflection of our lives. How do we curb this invasion of social media in our real lives as we have it, so that the things that are glamorized and glorified on social media do not confuse young people into thinking that is the way life has to be?
Okay, so again, it comes back to the basis. Have we accepted the fact that social media has become a part of our life? And for me, that's the first thing. Let's accept the fact that social media has become a part of our life. Then the second step is for us to also understand that what you see, what you hear may not always be what it is. And Dr. Shafali was spot on. You know, the reality is that many of us have not taken the time to understand. And you see, these should be part of our learning process, what in the sociology we refer to as our socialization. Our ability to accept, our ability to transfer certain information from those who do not know to those who know, so that in the process, that set of information become a part of our life. How many parents, and again, because I also have some personal interest in children and children development, I ask myself, how many parents have even taken the time to understand what the social media landscape really represents? How many parents are able to sit down with their kids and explain things to them? In fact, we ourselves as parents are actually the facilitators of these processes. How? Within less than a year, because we think that the children are going to disturb us, what do? We hand them gadgets. And what do? We hand them gadgets so that we can have our peace of mind. And every 30 seconds, there's a new act that is played. And so indirectly, what we are telling the child is that, listen, you don't need to concentrate on anything beyond 30 seconds. And the children will tell you that anything that goes above 2 minutes is boring. And what does social media do, especially for TikTok? Within 30 seconds, within 45 minutes, an act is completed and there's a new one. Right? So for me, it has to start from parents. It has to start from people who understand that what you see on social media is not the reality. And many of them are stage managed because they want to send a particular message. Again, who are the people we are modeling our life after? Go to all the social media pages. The people who have the largest followers, who are they and what are they presenting to our kids? What are they presenting to the younger generation? Just this morning, I was reading an article in the Chronicles of Higher Education. And many professors in the university in the US, in the UK, and even in the global south are admitting to the fact that our students today come to the university not prepared for the traditional rigorous university life of reading volumes of pages. Why? Because social media has reduced everything to seconds, to maximum 5 minutes. And these are the reality. Can you change it today? No. Accept it and learn how to manage it. I repeat my point again.
You know, accepting and learning from it is, as someone would say, easier said than done. It would require, one would expect, some understanding from the policy perspective, and the policy perspective not just at the national level, but also at home. You raise a key point about the involvement of parents. What role do you think the state can play in ensuring that parents or the environment, the nation itself, is pointed in the right direction as far as utilizing social media for what I call, for the lack of a better expression, proper use, efficient use, productive use?
I mean, you know, interestingly, I am a microsociologist. What does that mean? Is that I am the one who believes that it is not always the state that will act or determine what becomes sustainable. So I am the first to admit that the state has a role to play. Two, But however, my emphasis will be on parents. My emphasis will be on institutions like the churches. My focus will be on schools, because one of the things we have observed, especially in a neoliberal state, it has always proven to be very difficult to have a centralized control or management system. The policymakers will try, the politicians will try, but you know what normally happens? We begin to, like we say, we end up developing a one-fit-all approach. And what in the long term happens is that, yes, we would tick the boxes because, yes, they said we should develop a policy framework to regulate this. So you have the policy. And you and I, especially as Ghanaians, know that there's a vast difference between policy intent and policy execution. So I go back to the point. What can parents do? You see, in the Akan language, they say that easy, literally, right? Once it becomes very difficult. And so for me, to have a positive review of how we can integrate, and I'll use the word integrate, social media and other platforms into our social fiber, it needs to start at home. And it has to start early. And it has to start now. At what point are we giving gadgets to our children? I listened to another podcast recently, and the scholar was telling us that when we were growing up, we picked lessons from our friends, we picked lessons from our teachers, we picked lessons from our neighbors, from the churches and all that. And these were segmented. Now, we have to make a decision to say that instead of this child picking these lessons from these various quarters, okay, are we giving it to the child at one point? Because all these lessons that you were supposed to pick at different areas of your life is now put on the phone, on the tablet, to the child. And that is the decision parents have to make. At what point are we permitting children to own these gadgets? And one of the difficulties recently I have come to realize is that even parents, right, may be very strict and say, I am not giving my child a tablet or a phone. But our children go to school and there's an assignment that requires them, they call it research. And what does that mean? It means that they get you your phone because you have refused to buy a phone for them. They come and request for your phone. And by the time you realize
the research
they are actually not using the phone for the so-called research. But they have just switched to social media.
But it was a ruse. So my way around that is that I don't hand the phone. You sit behind a laptop, and I'm sitting behind you while you're doing it. You do the research. We'll all go to heaven. But I mean, that said, what would you say from your experience and breadth of knowledge we should be doing at the micro level to at least ensure that we're not overly exposing our young people?
One is for parents to be aware that, one, you cannot completely buy your child from using social media. That is one. Two, let's think critically at what point we want to hand over gadgets to these children. And thirdly, let's be available for our children. Let's be available. You cited your example that said, okay, so what I do is to sit with the child and then we go through the research. I wish every parent can do that. I wish every adult can do that. And once the child knows that you are there, and sometimes out of naivety, they may scroll to certain places that are very uncomfortable. But in your presence, even they do. They will ask questions. And as a parent who is concerned, you give them positive response. You teach them what they need to know. Because the truth of the matter is that if you, the father or the mother, is not available to provide the kind of information that they need, they will get it elsewhere. They will get it from their peers. They will get it from school. And unfortunately, in most instances, the kind of information they get from their friends are not the right set of information appropriate for them at the time. So at the micro level, these are the 3 suggestions that I will push. Parents must tend to know, have a critical assessment, and take a decision at what point we should hand over gadgets to our kids. And most importantly, we should try to be involved in the development of our children. Be available when they are doing their homework. Be available when they are PTA meetings to attend. Be available for them to have a general conversation with you. And then you clarify issues properly, else they get it elsewhere. And like I said, unfortunately, in most instances, the information they get from their friends may not be correct or may not be age appropriate.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Mark Kweku-Mensah, for sharing these insights with us.
Thank you, Kweku, for having me.
Right. And that was a senior lecturer at the Department of Sociology at the University of Ghana, Dr. Mark Kweku-Mensah. So we're admonished to, first of all, have awareness and conduct a thorough assessment before we hand the devices over to young people. And we must be available to provide further guidance. That means you must know what it is you're playing with. But in the meantime, Good Energy brings you Gold Super XP. It's the ideal choice of most vehicles. It's flowing at many Gold stations around the country. Just look for a Gold station that has a Gold Super XP sign over there. And go in and fill up your vehicle, because it's fortified with special additives that gives longevity to your engine, and it makes your engine perform to the max using minimal fuel, and it is suitable for most vehicles. So go fill up your vehicle today. Gold Super XP, woo filia, woo be fili. Gold, good energy. Yeah. And if you're looking for a way to enjoy the internet well, then you should be switching to Telecel Freaks Broadband today and experience incredible bonuses and non-expiry of bundles, including data transfer across devices and a lot more. New customers are getting 50% bonus data in addition to other mind-blowing offers, and existing customers are getting 300% bonus data on every broadband renewal to keep browsing. If you want to subscribe today, well, these are available and many more offers. Star 900 hash, or use the Telecel Play app, or visit the Telecel retail outlet, or better still, go to telecel.com.gh and get connected today. Terms and conditions apply. Telecel, connecting energies. And this is how we end the Asaase Breakfast Show today. Coming up next is News on the Hour. And then we will go off into Asaase Cafe with Caroline Sampson here on Asaase 99.5. In Tamale is YAD. In Kumasi is Naklode. And it's Ejuba in Cape Coast. God bless you all, and see you tomorrow.
Welcome to News on the Hour on Asaase 99.5 with me, Nana Boache. The Electoral Commission today, February 17, 2025, will conduct a rerun of the Council of State elections in the Ashanti and Northeastern regions. The Northeastern regions resulted in a tie between the two top candidates in last Tuesday's polls, whilst in the Ashanti region, the process were disrupted by attacks and could not be completed. Meanwhile, Ashanti regional candidate Ruth Hamilton has withdrawn from the race, citing her commitment to peace and democracy, emphasizing that the political position is not worth endangering lives. In other news, Northern Regional Minister Ali Andoff has announced that all projects rewarded under the previous NPP administration will undergo an audit to ensure value for money. A technical team will conduct a forensic review of all unfinished projects before fundings are released for their continuation. In African news, Rwandan-backed M23 rebels have entered Bukavu, the second largest city in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, seizing the regional governor's office. Some people lined the streets to clap and cheer the fighters as they marched and drove into the city center without resistance. It is the second city after Goma to fall to the rebels in the mineral-rich region in the past few weeks. The Congolese government has acknowledged its force and urged residents to stay at home to avoid being targeted by the occupying forces. And that will be all for News on the Hour with me. My name is Nana Boache, and for more updates, do visit asaaseradio.com.
It's Wednesday and various